I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank Mr. Abakarov for his briefing. It has been over 8 months since this Council passed Resolution 2803. It established a path forward for Gaza. The Board of Peace was created to set the stage for a new, non-radical leadership. Countries have contributed to the International Stabilization Force. Aid is getting in at levels not seen since 2023. But while Israel upholds its end of the deal, the main problem remains: Hamas has refused to disarm. But Hamas doesn't feel any pressure because the UN and this Council refuse to call them out, to weaken them, to pressure them. I quote Mr. Mladenov, the High Representative for Gaza on the Board of Peace. I quote, "Every week without agreement is paid for by the population of Gaza, not by those refusing to agree to it. While this Council has failed to pressure Hamas to accept the Board of Peace roadmap, the people of Gaza suffer. And not only that, this Council still refuses to designate Hamas as a terrorist organization." This month we saw these problems in practice. The UN released a statement. It implied Hamas stormed a food distribution plant in Jabalia and that they assaulted 2 truck drivers at a World Food Program warehouse. The statement described, and I quote, "an increasingly dangerous pattern of intimidation, violence, and obstruction." Good morning, United Nations. This is what we have been telling you for years. For years. But this statement, it was missing something. The statement mentions, quote, "armed personnel." It mentions de facto authorities. It says this group is placing humanitarian workers at risk and disrupting the delivery of life-saving assistance. I looked very carefully. I searched paragraph by paragraph for the name of this group. I could not find it. This statement is missing Hamas. They are not mentioned even once. And I ask myself, why? Why can't the UN call Hamas by name? Is the Secretary General telling you not to do that? Is the UN afraid? Afraid to say Hamas? Afraid of the governments that fund Hamas terrorism? This failure to call out terrorists by name and designate them must end now. For years we talked about Hamas's efforts to sabotage, prevent, and block humanitarian aid. But instead of taking action, this Council wastes its time repeating Hamas propaganda that Israel limits aid and starves civilians, that Israel closes border crossing, and that Israel does not comply with Resolution 2803 and Phase 1 of the 20-point plan. Just take a look at the new IPC report that examines the nutritional situation in Gaza. The report documents humanitarian improvements. Food insecurity is decreasing in every part of the Strip. But Israel, we still have reservations about this report. The report, unfortunately, must repeat the Hamas propaganda. It must reach the same alarmist conclusions, that there is food crisis in Gaza. The report claims the aid getting into Gaza is not enough, but that is not true. It is a lie, because the projections are based on a flawed reporting process, incomplete sources of information, and anti-Israel bias. This month, an Israeli report showed the humanitarian situation in Gaza is stable. Over 600 aid trucks are entering Gaza per day, not 100 like the IPC report says, delivering over 1.8 million tons of food since the ceasefire began. This is above the World Food Programme's benchmark of 80,000 tons per month. And you know what? We can argue about which report is more accurate. But the most reliable indicator that food security is improving, food prices have decreased by over 70%. No one can argue with that. That means more families can access and purchase food at reasonable rates. The medical situation is improving as well. 18,000 tons of medicine and medical equipment have entered Gaza since the ceasefire began, and hospital capacity is up 50% since September. Israel is not just making progress on aid. On Sunday, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved the initial entry of the International Stabilization Force into Gaza, so we can start a pilot project for reconstruction in Rafah, creating a humanitarian zone without Hamas control. Mr. President, despite the complicated situation, Israel has been facilitating humanitarian assistance into Gaza. I'm sure that, like every month, we will hear today remarks regarding the entrance of dual-use items into Gaza. Items that can be used for humanitarian purposes and for terrorist activities. We know what happens when these dual-use items get into Hamas's hands. Look at this picture. Hamas posted this video. You can find it online. It's a picture of the video. You can see Hamas terrorists digging up water pipes and turning them into rockets. And the absurd that they actually put that video, that they're taking the water pipes and actually transforming them into rockets. Still, many members of this council call for Israel to let all of these items in, without understanding the consequences of the reality on the ground. Our policy was not designed to make things harder for the people in Gaza. It is to prevent Hamas from rearming. We work with the UN, with NGOs to find alternatives, and we make exceptions when necessary. But as long as Hamas is in Gaza, there will be restrictions. Let's admit it. With Hamas in power, there is no future for Gaza. I now speak directly to Hamas. The ball is in your court. Either you disarm, either you give up power voluntarily, or Israel will do what is necessary. Mr. President, if we needed a reminder of Hamas's intentions, we were reminded this month. Hamas elected a new leader, Khalil al-Haya, as its next chairman. They elected one of the architects of October 7th as its new leader. He's an arch-terrorist. Do you remember him? He was in Doha on October 7th, front and center on video with Ismail Haniyeh, the former chairman of Hamas. He watched the terrorists invade Israel and kill innocent civilians. He was proud of it. He celebrated it. He cheered them on. After he was elected, the vice president of the moderate Palestinian Authority called to congratulate him. And look what happened on Friday. A terrorist in Samaria killed 2 Israelis and injured 3 more. They murdered Bnayahu Melet, a 32-year-old agriculture director, and they murdered Major Yuval Ezra, a 27-year-old IDF commander. Hamas not only praised the attack, they called for more violence. Mr. President, let us examine the irony in this council. Look at the list in front of you, at the country that will speak today. Some of these countries are hosting Hamas as we speak, both their military and political leadership. They are facilitating their banking infrastructure, and they are giving them the oxygen they need to survive. Today they will come here, will sit here, and they will call for a new future for Gaza. But at the same time, they embolden the terrorist organization that holds the people of Gaza hostage. So maybe you should ask them, when the representatives of Turkey will sit here later today, or Qatar, Ask them if they allow Hamas banking to function in their countries, if they allow transfers to different banks in the world, before they tell us what should happen in Gaza. Mr. President, while Israel is fighting terrorism at home, New York is becoming the latest battlefield. Last week, Mayor Mamdani accused our Prime Minister of being a war criminal and accused our nation of committing genocide. Hours later, a Jewish man walked out of his synagogue on the Upper West Side. He was stabbed by a radical who yelled, Allahu Akbar. When the mayor of New York City uses his microphone to demonize Israel, terrorists with weapons get the message. Some attack with guns, some attack with screwdrivers, some attack with lies. It is all the same because it all leads to the same result: violence against Jews. Mr. President, Israel understands the challenges of a democracy fighting against terrorism. Israel knows what we have to do if Hamas will not disarm. The question is, what will you do? This council should also take action. You should designate Hamas as a terrorist organization, and you should sanction Hamas so they cannot fund their crimes. This council should not be afraid to use those tools, but until now, this council has failed to fulfill its responsibilities, and not just with Hamas. You have not designated the Houthis. You have not designated Hezbollah. You have not designated the IRGC. Designate them now. You have the responsibility. You have the authority. Mr. President, to conclude, Israel has set a realistic path forward. We know what's going on in Gaza. Hamas is refusing to disarm. They are refusing to comply with the Board of Peace, and they are refusing to implement Resolution 2803. Hamas continues to choose smuggling over aid, violence over progress, and terror over peace. But now Hamas has lost the chance to choose, because they have shown the world that they don't want to change. Israel will ensure that Hamas will be disarmed. Israel will not wait forever. We understand that if we do not disarm Hamas, no one else will. It is our responsibility to ensure that Hamas can never again threaten the people of Israel, and we will fulfill that responsibility. Now this council has its work cut out for itself. It is time for action. Designate Hamas, sanction Hamas, and prevent Hamas terrorism once and for all. Thank you. Good morning. Today, Prime Minister Netanyahu will meet with President Trump in Washington. This meeting comes at a critical time for the Middle East. Iran has violated the MOU with the United States and continues to choose terrorism over negotiations. Iran continues to block the Strait of Hormuz and they launch ballistic missiles at 12 Middle Eastern countries every single day, halting trade, terrorizing the region, and killing American service members and innocent civilians. We are grateful for our deep partnership with the US. We fought shoulder to shoulder against Iran, and we are prepared to continue supporting the US in pursuing peace and stability in the region. Gaza will be part of the meeting today in the Security Council and also will be part of the discussion between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the President. We see that there is progress in Washington, but unfortunately the Security Council continue to fail designating Hamas as a terrorist organization. Hamas is the main obstacle to implementing the President 20-point plan, and we demand that the Council will finally designate Hamas as a terrorist organization. On Sunday, the Israeli cabinet approved the initial entry of ISF forces into Gaza. It will be an opportunity for the people of Gaza to rebuild their lives in a humanitarian zone completely free of Hamas control. We also appreciate the efforts of Secretary of State Rubio regarding Lebanon, and we're hopeful to see the day that Hezbollah is removed from the border between Israel and Lebanon. But as we see progress coming from Washington, look what's happening in New York City. Mayor Mamdani continues inciting violence in New York. Last week, he threatened our Prime Minister that he will be arrested when he comes to the UN General Assembly. And when he realized he cannot do that, it was a baseless declaration, he continued to demonize Israel and spread blood libels. It is no surprise that just one day later, a radical yelling Allahu Akbar stabbed a Jew who stepped out of a synagogue in the Upper West Side. Mayor Mamdani promotes hate. It is dangerous. It is irresponsible. I would like to end on a personal note. As you know, the Prime Minister came to meet with the President, but also he's here to pay his respects to Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham was a true friend of the State of Israel. He was always committed to the security and well-being of the U.S. and Israel. His leadership in Congress ensured Israel had the tools to defend itself against terror. The people of Israel will miss him dearly. We send our sincere condolences to his family and friends today. Thank you.
Ambassador, it's Pamela Fall from U.S. News and World Report. Given the fact that the Iran war is not very popular either in your country or in the United States, do you expect both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu to talk about specifics of scaling down the war or ending the war? And would the UN have any role? Do you think there's any way that the UN could have a nonpartisan role to help that kind of a peace agreement? Thank you.
Well, I'm sure that will be number one on the agenda in the meeting today between the Prime Minister and the President. I cannot tell you which direction it will go. There are different options. We will definitely would like to hear from the President what he wants to see in the next coming days or weeks. We are prepared for all scenarios. We are prepared for all scenarios, and we will discuss it with the President. Regarding the UN, unfortunately, we see that under the leadership of Secretary Guterres, the UN is not relevant, is not part of any negotiations, whether it's between Ukraine and Russia or Iran and the US, and I don't think it will change.
And just as a follow-up to what you said about New York City's mayor, do you think he has supported and promoted protests, given the fact that he has conceded that he cannot arrest Israel's Prime Minister?
Absolutely, and he's saying it publicly, that he calls people to protest. A mayor should unite the people of the city. He's doing exactly the opposite. He's spreading hate, and I'm worried about what will happen here in the UN high-level week. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, on Secretary General Guterres' visit to Syria, any comments on that? He did. One thing notable about that visit was that he did not make an effort, or he did not meet the leader of the Syrian Democratic Forces, the Kurdish leader, Muslim Abdi, who the group that helped defeat the Islamic State. What's your comment on that?
Well, you know, you have to ask the Secretary General about his visit. As I said earlier, he's not effective, and we are looking forward to work with the new Secretary General that will be elected soon. Thank you very much.
Do you have any preference on the next Secretary General?
I will tell you when we do. Thank you.
Thank you.